to the Window to Dubai. I'm here with Damu Winston, who is going to talk about pretty much everything blockchain. You are at the point in your life where you're actually writing a book and trying to break down kind of a technical, complex world that people don't understand and kind of put it into simple terms, correct?
Thank you very much. I appreciate being here. It's a pleasure to meet you again. The book is about blockchain. It's really focused on demystifying what blockchain is all about. So the name of the book is Blockchain Time Capsule, A Few Insights into the Future. So what I wanted to do was take this concept that's typically very complex and really ununderstood. People don't understand it at all. And really find a way to use real examples that people can relate to. So one of the things I talk about in the book is facts tell where stories sell. So what I've done in the book is started with some real facts so people understand what the facts are, and then followed up with some real stories or use cases that people can understand that relates to them. So I broke the book into really 4 chapters. The fundamentals of blockchain, which is really all the basics of what blockchain is all about. The second one is really focused on what made blockchain so popular. So that's cryptocurrency 101. The third one is what's going to make it sustainable. So that's the blockchain ecosystem. And then the third pillar of success is all about the future of trust, right? So the book is really hopefully a 50-page guide to the non-technical person. And if you're a technical person, sure, I recommend you read it as well. It's just really a good book for not just this region, but I think globally. So I use cases that are not just here in the UAE, but also that could be used in Saudi, in the US, etc. And so in the ecosystem chapter, one of the things we talk about is we break it down into the different verticals. So what I mean by that is you have the government vertical, we have the big business vertical, the nonprofit, the consumer, the developer, an SME. And the idea is that so from each of those different angles, you could see how blockchain could be used in your particular domain. And at least you can see other examples of how it's being done today. And then you can start to be the incredible human being that you are and think about new opportunities from that. So I tell people, especially in the book, we talk about exposure equals growth. So what that really means is that the more that you're exposed to gives you insights or perspectives that allow you to be the incredible human being that you are and think about other cool new things to create and build. So that's really what the book's about, giving people an opportunity to learn about this technology in a non-technical way and be able to think about how they can incorporate it into their daily lives or build on it, or create something from it.
And so the reason you want to create the book is because you think that this is going to actually eliminate jobs, so people kind of need to either get on or kind of get off. They're not going to be able to be in the middle anymore.
Absolutely. So the whole purpose of really, one of the reasons for creating the book was to make people aware that this technology is eliminating the middleman. So you don't necessarily need the what we call intermediaries anymore. So what we do in the book is we give a lot of use cases, 17 examples of how this is happening today and how it can happen in the future. So one of them is all around the music industry. So let's say you're an artist. You produce music. I think we all love music. And let's say you produce a set of songs and you want to, cut out the middleman, i.e. the music producer, by selling directly to the consumer. Now, while that may sound like a great idea, here are some of your challenges. The first thing is once you email the music directly to your consumer, now he and she, or the other person, has a copy of your music. You have a copy, they have a copy. But if you want to apply that same concept to, let's say, money, right? If I email you money, now that means you have a copy and I have a copy. That makes no sense. Money can't have 2 copies. Money has a unique value to it, and only one person should have it at a time. So what blockchain does is it eliminates what we call the double spending problem, which is that if I email you a copy or I send you a copy, there should only be one at any given time. So again, by now eliminating the middleman and no longer having this double spending problem, I have something called Bitcoin. Bitcoin will allow me to send you payments, and then at the same time you would have it, and I would no longer have that currency. So, in essence, what we're trying to do is revolutionize the future.
And so, I mean, decentralization part of it, and I'm
Sure.
just wondering, is this, just thinking in my mind, because it's talking about the music industry. Do you think it's a place where an artist wouldn't need to go to a Spotify to send out its music anymore? It could just send direct?
Yeah, so, absolutely. So again, the future is really all about creating trust, right? That's what the future is all about. And how do we define trust? Right now, we have systems in place like governments or financial entities that are in place to provide that level of trust for us. So we call it institutional trust. Then we have something like morals. I believe this person is a good person. That's trust. Another form of trust would be reputation or your history. That's trust. And then lastly is like your security. So if you really think about it, the future has to have all of those things. And if you're going to have a technology that's blending between the physical and the digital. So what I mean by that is the physical right now is, if I had cash, I gave you cash, you know the value of it. Online, if I sent you a payment like a cryptocurrency, you know the value of it. But as we think about the future, it's the merger of the two. So I can give you a real example. Imagine a time where, let's take fashion, for example, women's fashion, because women love fashion, especially my wife. Let's say, she's walking down the street and she sees a lady who has a purse, right? In the future, she could walk up to her and say, "Hey, do you mind if I rent that?" The lady would say, "Sure." Okay. Now, in that exchange, maybe through a tap of their phones, now the lady has given my wife, for example, this purse. And, when my wife wants to return it, she would, it would call someone or press a button and the logistics company would come pick up the purse. The cleaning service would clean the purse. The insurance company would validate that it's in good shape and then deliver it right back to the person. And then all the payment compensation piece would be all done automatically. So now turning my wife into an entrepreneur in real time, right? Instantly. And for that to work, you would need trust amongst the entire ecosystem. So what blockchain will enable is just that. Allows people to have this asset tracking solution that tracks the product where it's at, allows people to transact through payments, allows people to have trust in each person. So, and again, without needing an institution like a bank or needing a government, etc., to do it. Yeah. So what we talk about in the book is, for all of that to happen, you would need to have some type of entity that blends between the physical and the digital. And I think what that would be is like your social platforms like Facebook or LinkedIn. So
yeah, I've heard that they're investing in blockchain. Facebook is, yeah.
Absolutely. They haven't put out there what they're gonna do with it, but I think this is gonna be a perfect use case for it. So now if you have a profile, that becomes your trusted identity. So if I want to do business with you directly, I don't necessarily need to trust my credit score or trust any other system. I can do it with you because I trust you because you're on this platform with me called Facebook. So again, what I'm talking about is technology that's happening at a rapid speed. And let's think about it like this. How many years did it take for, let's say, Coca-Cola to become like a $68 billion company? Yeah. Or, I don't know, $85 billion company? It's like 68 years, something like that. How many years did it take for, I don't know, Emirates Airline or something like that to have a billion customers? A lot of years, you know what I mean? But when you think about cryptocurrency, it was this last year in 2017, it was the same size of Snapchat, about $17 billion. But by January of 2018, it was almost the same size of Apple at $814 billion. So we're talking about in almost a year, a company growing from the size of Snapchat to the size of Apple. So this whole industry is not going away. It's just going to be, I think, over time become more and more part of our lives. So the whole purpose of the book, again, is to really try and provide insight and share with people that this is a technology that you can adopt, be a part of, and profit from.
It seems like even like industries like Airbnb and Uber, who were unicorns 5 years ago, could be cannibalized by this. True. Only 5 years after being a unicorn.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Again, so like you talked about earlier, the whole decentralization piece, you're cutting out the middleman. So, there are companies right now talking about how do I convert my car, my individual car, into a ride sharing car. So let's imagine that I own a Tesla, right? I'm the owner of it. And now if I want, I can allow other people to now rent my Tesla throughout the day. So when I'm at work, you could be, my car can now turn into an asset that makes money for me. So it goes and picks up someone else. They get in the car, just like an elevator, takes them to the next destination. After that, goes and gets itself serviced, and then comes back and picks me back up. All automatic. So that you no longer need taxi drivers. You no longer need, limo services. You now can, use your own assets to create new wealth.
Wow. So there's a lot of, even recent industries that could be cannibalized by this idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so kind of what brought you to the region actually was you were brought out here by...
So I did an MBA program at Halt International Business School, and I stayed. I was very fortunate enough that in, I think, 2014, 2015, I took on a role to build the 2020 strategy for NMC, National Medical Care, out in Saudi Arabia. And my team and I built, again, the 2020 strategy. After that, I moved back to Dubai. I was flying every week between Riyadh, Jeddah, back to Dubai. And then I worked on some cross-border payment solutions between Kuwait and India. What that really means, I'll really break that down. So if you've ever tried to send money from one country to another country, that's called cross-border. So, you're from the U.S., I'm from the U.S., and if I want to send money back home, I typically go to a bank. And to do that, it takes about 3 business days to transfer money from Dubai back to the States. And then there are fees on both sides, and there's conversion costs on both sides. So what banks recognize is that this technology called blockchain is very disruptive. So they're trying to find ways to adopt it into their organizations. So there's a company called Stellar, for example, or Ripple that works directly with these large entities like banks to allow them to do these cross-border payments where it takes less than 32 seconds to transfer money from the UAE to anywhere. And it costs them, for let's say Stellar.org, for example, for every 1,000 transactions is 0.2 cents. Wow. So that's significantly cheaper than if you want to transfer money using your traditional bank today, or UAE exchange, or anything else.
Yeah, and even before that, your background obviously was in the technology space.
Yes, so prior to being actually in Dubai, I was very fortunate to work for Wells Fargo, one of the largest banks in the U.S., and I was responsible for building out what we call an electronics communication solution. So what that really means is your email, your SMS, your BlackBerry, your Twitter, etc. Would all go through this rules engine to validate that the conversations that were being had are in alignment with the normal behavior for that particular role. So I'll give you an example. If you're a financial advisor, you should not be sending confidential information to another bank outside of Wells Fargo. So that would be flagged. And then a human person would then have to validate that this is not normal behavior, etc. But what we did was, because you're getting 1 billion communications per day, no one has the bandwidth to actually go through all those communications per month. So only when there's an anomaly, only when there's an issue, would you then have to go and investigate further.
Nice. Yeah. So what do you think is, I think it's a good episode so far.
Sure.
What do you think is the main takeaway people should know about blockchain?
Yeah, so I think the main takeaway about blockchain is that October 11th, blockchain time capsule is coming out. The website's going to be blockchaintimecapsule.com, all one word. And I think, I've broken the book down again into like 4 key chapters. And I think the most important thing you want to understand is this is a book that's a guide to a non-technical person to help them understand what blockchain is. And if you are technical and you are in the UAE or the Middle East and you claim to be an expert, I think you should probably pick this book up as well, because I've seen a lot of fraud in the market. So I want people to really get the real facts, understand exactly what blockchain is, how to use it, and then really some really good examples of how it's being used today. Again, it's 17 use cases of how it's used today and how it can be used in the future. And I'm just really excited about putting it out there.
So why did you choose October 11th to launch the book?
That's a good question. So back in December, my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. And, I was flying a lot back then between Dubai, the U.S., and India. And when my mother got sick, I actually refocused my efforts to focus on family. So I have a wife and son that are here in Dubai, but I ended up spending most of December, except for like maybe 3 or 4 days in Dubai, most of January, except for a few days here and there back in Dubai. And then half of February all in the States, taking care of my mother. And at the time, I was preparing for, funeral arrangements, things of that nature. And it was a very difficult time for me. And the one thing that really helped me through the whole process was really writing. And what I realized was that, it was hard and to actually go through something like that. And so what happened was in February, my mother got onto this new form of chemo, and I came back here to Dubai because my family's here, my wife and my son are here. And over the next few months, my mother's health actually got better. So stage 4 means you're pretty much terminal. And what they gave my mother was something called palliative chemo, which really means just to help comfort you. And now my mother, in her last scan, came back and said that she has no sign of cancer. So for me, doing this book is in honor of her, and to really show my appreciation for her to be my mother, and just her to raise me to be the person I am today. So honestly, that's the reason for doing the book. It's her, and that's the reason why I'm launching it October 11th, and that's her birthday.
Oh, I see. That's awesome. No, it's great. You also have interviewed quite a few people for the book. Can you mention some people that are in it?
Yes, absolutely. So I have some, I think, an all-star cast of people I've interviewed for the book, because I wanted this thing to be as authentic as possible. And so what I did was I interviewed Dr. Marwan, who is one of the thought leaders in the region all around cryptocurrency. He's an Emirati, great guy, exceptional individual. And he shared some of his insights, his perspective on cryptocurrency and where it's headed for the region. I also interviewed Noah Rafford, who is Dubai Future Foundation's futurist, or chief futurist, I'm sorry. Yeah. An exceptional individual as well. And some other key exceptional people, I would say just take a look at the book cover and you'll see some exciting names, some on a global scale and some exceptionally known in the region. So I've been very honored and blessed to have them be a part of this journey with me.
Nice. And can you share a few case studies with us?
Absolutely. So, one of them, I think it may not be the perfect example of blockchain, but I think it's a good idea of how to use blockchain, right? So, in, let's say, certain countries, they have fires on buildings catch on fire. And, unfortunately, God forbid, let's say someone gets burnt. If someone gets burnt, you would typically, an ambulance would come out and identify the person as a burn victim and take the person to the closest hospital. When they arrive at the hospital, they would then find out that hospital does not have any more what we call burn victim beds. Okay, so if they don't have any more burn victim beds, which are specialized beds for burn victims, then the hospital staff has to call up another hospital that may be a public-owned hospital, private-owned hospital, or a what we call polyclinic hospital. And when they get to that hospital, they may find out that they don't have any doctors that specialize in burn victims. They may not the person may not have insurance that's covered at that particular hospital. So all of these factors can make a bad experience or make an experience that's already bad worse for the consumer. Now, if you leverage blockchain, we create this what I call a trusted communication layer, where now the ambulance system can integrate with all the different hospitals, from government-owned hospitals to polyclinics to private-owned hospitals, who all use different systems, and even integrate with an insurance company, etc. So now when the person is identified as a burn victim, the system will automatically identify what's the best hospital for the person to go to versus the closest one to them. What's going to be the hospital that offers the right insurance, that the insurance will be accepted, etc., etc., and therefore making that experience for the consumer the best possible use case or best possible scenario for them. And then you look at it from the business perspective, right? There's a concept called throughput. Throughput is this idea that if I have an asset, I can put more through it. I can do more business with that asset. So let's take the ambulance, for example. If the ambulance, in the first scenario, in the current system, if it goes from the fire location to the hospital, and it's the wrong hospital, it has to go to another hospital, the insurance company will only pay one time for one trip, regardless of how many trips are made. So now from a business perspective, I can just go to the right place the first time. And now that asset, which is my ambulance, I can then reallocate it to my inventory and use it for other things. If I want, I can now use that vehicle for delivering pizza for all that matters. But now I can increase my throughput for that particular asset. So again, it's value created on all sides. And then take it look at it from the medical practitioner standpoint. If I'm a doctor, I can subscribe to this blockchain network, and I can be notified when my services are needed. So if I'm away, now I have notification that, okay, now I need to go to this particular hospital because I have a patient coming in. So again, it just creates value across the entire chain.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. I think it's a great episode.
Sure,
I think we could end it there. Do you want to have anyone where they can find you on Instagram, LinkedIn, anything?
Again, I'm online. My personal profile is Damu Winston on just about every social platform, from LinkedIn to Facebook to Twitter. I'm most active now on LinkedIn, and really looking forward to connecting with some really great minds.
Awesome. Thank you. It's a great episode.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.